Good morning, everyone. How is it going? Happy Wednesday. I am streaming just a little bit later than normal today. Rather, I'm streaming just a day later than most weeks. That's because I was on the road yesterday and the day before, and I skipped last week because I was on the road last week. I was in Belgium at Devox. I have a coffee mug from Devox. Devox was awesome. I'm really glad I went. Although I apologize that the hotel Wi-Fi was not quite up to the task of code streaming. But we'll make up for today. I'm doing an extra long session today. I'm going to see if my stamina is sufficient to go for an extra maybe 1 or 2 hours with a break in the middle. So hopefully we'll get some more stuff done today compared to usual. And so what all are we doing today? Well, first I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Let me mute. Being one of those people with that misophonia thing, I can't stand the sound of other people drinking. So I do my best to try and mute when I take a sip of coffee. Sorry ahead of time if I fail to. Anyway, let's bring up my to-do list, switch over to a different scene where you can actually see what I'm doing on my computer. We're going to be doing some Android stuff today. So, let me show you the code for my development device. It doesn't actually have any accounts on it. We're going to be doing some more development today. So I have Visor up, and here's my plan. So this is the plan from last week. So let's go ahead and change our plan to a plan that is relevant for this week. Sorry, I just needed a moment to cough there. I'm actually going to move my OBS stuff back over so I don't look quite as far away when I go tinker with the scenes. Let me get a feel for the edge of my camera box. Okay, here. There we are. That's good. Okay. Just kind of getting a feel for where what you see begins and what I see ends. Or what you see ends and then what I see continues. We'll go with that. So the plan for today is we are going to be generally working on a Cloud Spin v2. Specifically, we are going to we're going to spend some time sketching out some wireframe of the apps. And this because last time, which I guess was 2 weeks ago, we spent some time kind of inspecting where the previous generation of Android apps were, the ones that my intern Hassani worked on this past summer. And we took a peek at them to see where they kind of were in the life cycle. And they have they're a little bit broken right now. And there's not, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually change gears a little bit. So we're probably going to re-implement at least the controller piece from scratch, just because I think I have a different vision, like some stuff we learned during that development cycle that I'd like to apply to this. So I like to sketch out a wireframe of both apps. That's the controller, which for Cloud Spin, which I guess I'll take a peek at the architecture diagram in case anybody dives in today. And I'll explain what the controller app is and what the camera app is. I'll spend a moment just talking about Cloud Spin. Should probably, each time I do a video, I get to practice my Cloud Spin pitch again. Then we're going to put some code down on the controller app. And time allowing, we'll put more code down on the camera app. And what this should hopefully allow us to do is, get kind of a rudimentary thing working. And then what I want to be able to do for next week is I want to actually have a small version of a physical rig that can handle 3 cameras. I actually want to set that up in my back room, and I'll probably move my streaming setup back into that back room. And we'll start to actually do some test runs of the completed hardware. At least a miniature version of the completed hardware. So without further ado, let me bring up Keynote, which I think has some explanation of what this Cloud Spin thing is from my early streams. So let's go open recent. Let's talk not about imposter syndrome. Streamy intro deck. Yeah, because I actually used to do my intros with streaming. I had my stuff to do and stuff like that. Okay, so what is this Cloud Spin thing? Let's talk about Cloud Spin, the general project I am working on. It's a demo of Google Cloud Platform that we have taken in a previous incarnation to many different events. And we learned a lot from the initial implementation, which we hacked together very rapidly in a 2-week period of time with 5 developer advocates who, of course, are known for their polished and sensible approach to software development, never hacking anything out. No, it's full of hacks. And we got it together for an event a few years back, and it's wonderful. It's my favorite Google Cloud Platform demo. We use a bunch of Android phones you can see them in the background here, to capture a bunch of pictures. And then we use a bunch of cloud stuff to take those and find frames that happen in a particular split second in time. And this is a little more complicated than it sounds like, because Android phones actually have clocks that vary a little bit, and dealing with that clock skew is actually kind of challenging. So what we actually have to do is extract content from the videos, or from the pictures, from the stuff captured by the devices to figure out that frame in time. And what we actually end up capturing is we end up capturing video we extract frames to make the GIF. And so what I want to do is I want to do a new implementation that's mostly using Android apps, Google Cloud Platform's Cloud Function stuff, and Firebase for kind of rough signaling. I also want to use the Cloud Vision API to do the detection and frame extraction. So let's switch back over to, I forgot to make a scene for it. Let me create a new video capture device. I will create a new one called New Device, and we'll call it Sketch. So I'm going to show you a sketch I did a couple weeks ago. That looks good. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to show you a sketch we did a couple weeks ago. I'm going to get a little more light down there. Kind of explaining what this Cloud Spin thing looks like in practice. So what it ends up looking like is, actually I can make this a little bit bigger. Boop. There we go. So I'm kind of cut off because I'm facing away from the camera anyway. So what this thing actually looks like is it's a physical piece of metal with a bunch of Android phones attached to it. I'm probably going to reuse the existing hardware, which is a bunch of Nexus 6s, which are fine. If this project ends up being super successful, I'll upgrade them to Pixel 2s, which have wicked fast video, which will make for even more awesome little clips. But I can use existing hardware. They're on a big old rig. I'm going to be using extruded aluminum framing for like kind of the robot rail stuff that's amazing for prototyping, and building one of anything. And so what happens is a signal comes from an operator who's controlling a tablet computer usually, and that sends a signal to all of these different phones to capture video at roughly the same time. They all start up and they capture video for a few seconds. During that time, a person in the middle will do something fun. Usually they'll jump in the air, sometimes they'll throw something up, do a handstand, something like that. They do something cool. All of those phones are capturing video during that time. We have some embedded signal in the recorded video, which previously was a sound that we sent in through all the headphone jacks. But what I want to use is I want to use a clock. So I'm actually going to have like a stopwatch counting very quickly in the background. So there's a signal that we can use to synchronize all of those videos very precisely. Then all of those phones will upload to Google Cloud Storage, or maybe probably using the Firebase binding. And a bunch of cloud functions will execute to synchronize, find the offset of all the different video clips, so we can synchronize them. And then it will probably, and then we'll extract a few different frames, like probably 5 or 6 representative GIFs, which we might identify using more Cloud Vision APIs to determine what are probably the most likely GIFs that people are going to enjoy. And then those get sent over to a laptop over here, where the user can share them on social media, send them to themselves via email, all that stuff. Oh, and while the processing has happened, because that takes a couple seconds, we are going to display that on a web app on a TV screen. So we have a few different components we need to work from. So if I pull this to the side, whoop, our general different components are, we have, let me get that kind of roughly lined up so it looks a little nutty. So the different components, oh, I know, I'm going to do a mind map. So Cloud Spin v2. So we're going to be doing some mind mapping here. And we have a few different general components we have to do. We have a monitor. which is that big, the monitor is this part over here where people can watch it as it runs through the process. So it's kind of watching all the different signaling that are bouncing around. We have a camera, and this is an Android app. That's an Android app. Oh, this is web, because it's typically being displayed from a Chromebook. We have a controller, which runs on a tablet, although I think I might actually take a different swing at it. One of the challenges we had during Cloud Spin that I never really thought about is keeping track of all the different Android apps that are installed, because we don't actually release them to the Play Store. So I think I'm actually going to re-implement the controller, because it doesn't really matter what it's running on. I'm going to re-implement it as a web app so that people can control it with whatever they have handy. If our tablet breaks, they can use their cell phone to do it. So I'm going to do that with a web app. I do love web development where appropriate. What else do we have? So we have we also have the social media sharing. So so it's clear now that there are a whole bunch of different applications that collaborate to make this Cloud Spin thing work. And I'm going to take a step aside real quick and see why I'm getting feel like I'm dropping some frames. No, not too bad. Sorry, just bear with me as I make sure I'm not dropping frames and I'm just making your video quality sad. Anyway, back to the actual topic at hand. There's a whole bunch of different apps that have to collaborate. Is that everything involved? So the clock is just a dumb clock. It doesn't need to be doing anything special. So we have the operator, control tablet, and all the different cloud stuff. And we've actually already made pretty good progress. I actually started this whole video series while my intern was still here. So I actually worked kind of on the middle of this project first. And a lot of the different cloud processing stuff is already done. So there's the extract all the frames and then turn frames into a GIF. So we want to extract frames. We want to do a frames to GIF. These are different kind of components we'll use to solve the larger problem. Let me mark the center of my mind map different so we know where the origin kind of is. And then we also have a frame that fixes the timing skew. So synchronize. And these are all implemented in Cloud Functions. So JS in Cloud Functions. In Cloud Functions. Whoop. And these two are already implemented in earlier streams. Those are already implemented in earlier streams. Already on YouTube. We'll probably have to reconfigure them a little bit to get them working when we have everything together. But I think kind of the bulk of their implementation is pretty much ready. So those are all the different things we have to implement. And we also have to figure out how all these different apps are signaling to each other while we're building this thing. So let's go ahead and let's think about the different signals that are moving between these different applications during the flow. So I'm going to do another kind of mind mappy thing. So we're going to pull this apart and we're going to kind of do a sequence diagram. You get to learn a lot about how I do like engineering in general. This is the exciting part of engineering, kind of. Sequence diagrams. I love sequence diagrams. So we have, I'm not going to do another one way of doing sequence diagrams with a bunch of vertical lines and have things go back and forth. Actually, I think I'll do it that format. So we have the controller app. Let me find a straight edge. I will, of course, use the lowest cost straight edge you could possibly use for a diagram, an iPad. So we have our controller, and the first signal the controller sends is to the it's going to send it to pretty much everything because it's going to start a new thing. So what all is it sending it to? It's sending it to the monitor and to the camera apps. So the first thing is the first event we have is a start clip. I'll do this in blue so it's easier to kind of, so that's a start recording. So we do our start recording, and this goes to the camera and to the monitor. What you're going to find is almost all the signals go to the monitor. So let's go ahead and add some more vertical lines using my very fancy ruler. So start recording is going to go to from the controller to the camera and to the monitor at the same time. So I'm going to sketch these in. Do I have another pen color? That would be awesome. If I had like a red pen here, that would be totally rad. But I have a silver marker. Signals will be moving in silver Sharpie because that is the only thing I have handy. So we're going to go ahead, and that is going to go simultaneously to a couple different places. Is that visible on the camera? Yeah, it's kind of visible. So we're going to send that to both of them, and the camera is going to basically it's going to start the recording activity. So start recording. It'll start recording, and the monitor is going to, will it actually do anything? No, I guess there's not a signal to the monitor. That's a mistake, because the monitor is only going to, it's not actually going to, because it's still going to be showing the previous session. So the monitor's not actually going to be doing anything. That's when it would be great if this was a whiteboard. So that's not actually happening. So the camera's going to start recording. It's going to do its recording work. It's going to have some files. So at the end of that, it's going to have a bunch of videos. So all the different cameras are going to have video files. So they're going to upload. They're going to upload the videos. They're also probably going to signal to the system that they're currently uploading videos. They're going to, after they're done uploading videos, so at the beginning of start recording, it's going to also create a new session. Oh, I should be doing this in blue if I want to be consistent. So we're going to start recording, upload video. Another thing we're actually doing here that I forgot about is we're going to basically start a new spin session. So we're going to create a session. Oh, and this is all within one rig too, because there's also the inter-rig flows. We'll do that afterwards. We'll zoom out when this is done. So it's going to upload the videos, and then these are done. Once the videos are uploaded, the cameras are kind of done. Then they're going to close out the session. So do they need to do any tasks to close out that session? I guess they can delete the session. No, because the sessions are going to keep going because it's going to move on to the monitor, which will then be interpreting it. So I guess they will signal that the videos are uploaded, so they're done. They declare uploaded and they're done. So once that's done, then the next thing that's going to happen is at this point, the controller is actually going to reset. Oh no, wait, the start of the recording, is that actually going to create the new session? I guess the session gets created. I'm glad I'm taking the time to do this, because the session is probably going to get created during the start recording button. So that's going to actually create the session. And then the cameras are all going to step into there, and they're going to walk through their own workflow within that. They're going to start recording, they're going to upload videos, then they're going to declare themselves done. After that, the next thing that's going to do some work is going to be another component, the cloud stuff, so cloud functions. So the cloud functions, what are they going to do? They are going to Once the videos are uploaded, they are going to, so let's draw a line over with my wonderful straight edge. So once the videos are done being uploaded, the Cloud Function stuff is going to synchronize all the frames, or synchronize the video clips. Then it's going to, once the clips are synchronized, then it's going to extract frames. Oh, I did it again. Extract frames. Once the frames are extracted, then it's going to take the extracted frames and identify some, so syncing clips. So it's actually extracting frames before it's syncing clips, because I'm doing OCR on the frames, not the video. So this is all wrong. All wrong. First thing we're going to do is extract all the frames. Once all the frames are extracted, then we're going to sync the videos. In which case, what we're really doing is we're figuring out the different offset of each video relative to some fixed point in time. Probably identify the video that started first, figure out the offset, or rather, we'll pick an arbitrary video and figure out the offset between each one of the video clips, and then we'll apply that as like a delta that we'll store. Then we'll sync all the different videos. And that'll be applying the offset to figure out like the very beginning, the very first frame. Then we will identify interesting frames. And this will be like looking at the center camera and seeing where somebody looks like they're smiling the most, or look at the center camera and see where the average height of all the faces is highest, which is probably the peak of their jump. So we'll pick a few. Then we will, after that, we will extract, we'll create GIFs. And we're probably, so at 30 frames per second, we're going to be creating for 5 seconds, we're going to be creating maybe 100 GIFs. So we're actually going to be using quite a bit of metal to do this work. Quite a bit of processing time. Which is part of the demo, which is also a warning to all of you, if you are following along, I'm going to be writing these cloud functions in kind of a wasteful way on purpose to kind of flex the muscle of the cloud computing side. If I was doing this for real, I might only want to create one GIF or not extract all the frames, like figure out, like do a search for interesting frames rather than just do all the extraction off the top, because I don't think you don't need to demonstrate how much CPU time you can use in a hurry, because I want to kind of demonstrate how this thing can scale up and down. In other words, set up your own billing alerts like I showed you at the beginning of the last video before you do any work with this kind of stuff, because you don't want to be sad. Okay, so we created all those GIFs. At this point, the cameras are probably reset. This is reset. These are done. The controller is pretty simple because it just sends a signal to the cameras. The monitor is just kind of keeping an eye on all the stuff at any given time. So it's just watching. So the monitor is probably going to get written at the very end because it's just going to be watching all the signals. It's not doing anything actively. Okay, create GIF, and then it goes to the, what's that? I'm looking back over this diagram. So the next thing we want to do is we want to work on the sharing application. So that is the last thing in this sequence diagram. Sorry about my terrible handwriting. Whoop, the sharing app, which is also going to be a web application because that's going to be running on a Chromebook. Because big keyboard's easier to type your email and Twitter handle in. So what happens here is, whoop, so we have a sharing app. That's going to be a web application. I'm probably going to run it on App Engine just because it makes it easier to do everything. Because this is the place where people are typing in their information. I want to make sure that I don't have to deal with like patches or anything for that. So it's probably going to run there. Or I guess I could run it on Firebase hosting with all JavaScript. We'll figure that out later. I will work with my privacy team to make sure I do it in a way that makes sense. But it's going to basically be a bunch of JavaScript looking at Firebase and tweeting some stuff out with the Twitter APIs. So create GIF, and then this is going to start the sharing flow. So select GIF. Almost went off screen. Select the GIF you like, or multiple GIFs you like, and then share via email, share via Twitter. Or I could do Google+. I worked on Google+ for a couple of years. We could do sharing on Google+ too. Okay, so what's kind of useful from this sequence diagram is we can see that like the responsibilities kind of happen in each cluster. There's not a whole lot of stuff going back and forth, which means that I don't have to spend a whole lot of time. I was afraid I'd have to spend a lot of time iterating on these apps and cycling them over and over again, kind of across the entire cross-section of them. And I think I can probably get away without having to do too much of that. I can probably work on them in isolation. And I think the first thing we'll do is work on the controller, because the controller is actually doing some work ahead of this that I didn't quite discuss. The first thing it does is because all of these different things are organized into a rig. So the other things that the controller is doing is it's creating a rig, and so this is kind of like a separate mini sequence diagram down here. This is the rig creation. Because I want there to be able to be a single Firebase that can support many different simultaneously running Cloud Spin demos. So rig creation, the way rig creation works is a rig is a particular instance of a demo at a particular event. It is the coming together of a bunch of phones with the app installed and all of the different supporting web applications. So a rig is created by the controller at the beginning of the experience, and then all the phones opt into the rig and then select their relative position to each other. Because that's important, because we're going to need to know which phone is in which position in the camera rig so that we can actually make that GIF. Because like I'm assuming that the cameras are all exactly like 11.5 degrees apart and all that stuff from like having done some geometry ahead of time. So rig creation, what happens during rig creation? So we have the controller lists the rigs. So you can either select join an existing rig as a controller. So I guess you could have multiple controllers in the same rig, or create a new one. And here I am writing with this one again. We're doing it all in one color down here because I'm lazy. So we'll list all the rigs, and then you can either join or create a rig. And then sometime after that, the cameras, they join a rig. And then they can specify their index from like left to right. Which is pretty cool. Okay. There's also some subtle stuff here that's happening that I didn't put in this diagram. Like the phones are probably going to report back. I'm going to use on-disconnect handlers on the real-time database and stuff like that. So the phones can report back if they get disconnected from the network or something like that. Yeah, we'll do all those things. But this is kind of the basic flow. So today what we're going to be working on is we're going to work on the controller, and we're going to work on this stuff. So I guess the next step, we probably need to do even more planning, because the next thing we need to plan is how all of this flow gets expressed in terms of how all this gets expressed on the real-time database. So I'm going to mock out some data on the real-time database just like I did quite a while ago when I was working on the Cloud Function side. So let's close this, save some RAM. And now I'm going to bring up another tab. Go back to console.firebase.google.com. We're going to go back into our Gifiator application, and we are going to continue working. So yeah, if anybody's out there watching, feel free to chat. I love hearing from people while I work. That is the whole fun part of doing social programming in Streamyland. So I'm going to leave this diagram up here, and I'm going to kind of refer to it while I do work up here. Just got to find a place where I can fit that little thing. There we go. I don't get a lot of screen real estate to do the stuff up here, but I want to show it to you while I go. So Giphiator, we already have some mock data out here. So we already have a rig with a fake identifier. This is, by the way, all the kind of mock data that I use for the function development. So we have a fake identifier, which is a rig ID. And then that has the size of the expected size of the rig, the number of cameras in it, has a display name, and it has its own workflow. So this is going to go through its own kind of enumerated workflow where a rig is idle, or what are the different states that this could have? So let me move this aside. So let's kind of come up, let's do a little sequence diagram here. So we have a rig, and a rig is idle. I swear I'm not dyslexic, I just wrote that D backwards like a B. Anyway, a rig is idle. Then a rig is recording. So it creates a session. Does the rig even need its own state? I don't even know. Because it sends the recording signal out to all the cameras. And I don't want to start recording a second session until the first session is done. So it certainly has a recording state. Or actually, I'll call it capturing. So we're going to do the capturing state, and then once capturing is done, so at the point when the last phone knows that it's done, or I can do kind of a watch around all the phones, and when the expected number of phones have reached their completion state, then this one will go back to idle. So a rig itself only has two different states. It can either be capturing or idle. And this one's already idle. Okay, so we know that. So that's going to be that enumeration. How about a camera? This is where the state diagram. So let me kind of like retranscribe that. So we have rigs, which is idle or capturing. And it's just going to go back and forth between these two states endlessly. And it's going to return to idle when all the cameras are done with their workflow. Then we have the cameras, which have their own workflow. And what the cameras are going to do is, if they are alive, they're going to be reporting their camera state. And the camera state's up here. Oops, didn't mean to click into that. So the cameras are going to have their own camera state up here, which is going to be organized by rig. And the reason I do it flattened like this is so that I can set up security rules later. I want to kind of flatten out each one of these different chunks of information so I can independently secure them. Okay, and then the cameras are each going to be identified here. If they were to disconnect from the network, I'll make them delete this node, at which point the rig will freak out because one of the cameras is missing. It'll kind of keep an eye on how many cameras are there. And then each one of the cameras has its own sequence that it goes through. So its own state machine. So they, of course, start with idle. So they start idle. After idle, they are going to get a signal that they are recording, or they're capturing. Then after they've completed their capture, they're going to upload. And uploading can fail. We actually had problems with the cameras getting grumpy when they failed to upload. In the unfortunate case that at some venues they were using Wi-Fi, which always made it very hard because these things upload like combined like hundreds of megabytes per session. So they're going to be capturing. Oh, and the session's going to have its own state machine. Oh, that's crazy. Okay. And then it's going to be uploading, and then once it's done uploading, if uploading failed, it's going to retry. And then do I want uploading to block? Probably, Because what I could do is I could have the cameras try and upload in the background and have like a separate whole sequence just for the uploading of the sessions, which would allow me to pipeline even more and cram more people in, like basically be able to get people through the line faster. I don't think I'm going to bother with that. I think I'll let the cameras upload, because my intent is actually to use plugged-in Ethernet for all of these Android devices, which I know is kind of nutty. But it turns out you actually can plug Android phones into Ethernet, and then they get very fast networking, which is pretty cool. So after the uploading is done successfully, they can go into a failed state. If the retry upload fails, so I'll have them retry and upload 3 or 4 times, and then they'll be failed. I don't know if they actually be in a failed state. Do I want someone to intervene at that point? Probably not. I'm probably just going to fail out the session at that point. No, there's probably something wrong with the cameras. I'm going to have user intervention at that point. And then any one of these can return back to idle. And idle ones are, of course, ready for another capture. So maybe idle will be better described as ready. I think I'm going to rename idle to ready. So idle has now been renamed to ready. Ready for action. So there is one more sequence that's going to happen, is a session. So a session is more abstract because it involves a lot of the cloud processing side of it. But a session is this one's going to be weird because it doesn't actually have a loop. A session goes through a fixed life cycle, and then at the end of it, it's done. So we're going to have sessions will start in new, just so I can detect if they break at that new state. Then they're immediately going to move into capturing. So capturing, and then uploading. And then when the last camera finishes its upload, then they will move on from uploading. So it'll wait. So the cameras, okay, so how will the sessions be updated? I'll figure that out after the fact. So I can either do that with like a cloud function, or I can actually have one of these devices. I can actually have the controller probably manage the session, which will depend on it being connected. So it might be in a cloud function somewhere, kind of a session manager cloud function, which would be kind of cool. So session manager cloud function. Anyway, the session, once it's done uploading, then it's going to move on to synchronizing. All the synchronization is going to happen. Then once all the synchronization is done, then, oh no, wait, frame extraction is next. I keep getting that mixed up. So next thing is I'm running out of space. Boop. So extraction. Then we're going to sync. Then once we're done with the synchronization, we're going to detect interestingness. Then we're going to detect it. Then we're going to build the GIFs. GIF making. We're going to GIFize. And then finally, the very last one is ready to share. Kind of the done state. And what's different about the session is it actually goes through like a sequential life cycle, and at the very end of that, it is done. And this does map to the stuff I've done previously here. I'll actually describe it in the data here. And the states are a little bit different. I have an uploading state. I have an uploaded state, which should probably be extract or something. Oh, actually, this is a really good idea that I had previously, is I probably want to have an uploaded state too. So if I go back to this one, I probably want an uploaded state. The reason I want an uploaded state is because I want I want to be able to kind of capture the fact that the Android phones have, this is when the Android phones are in control. They're doing the uploading. And at some point, some component of the system will note that all of the cameras have finished uploading that session. and they'll move on, and they'll flag the whole thing over into uploaded, which is the signal to the Cloud Functions that it's time for them to take over. And they will start working on the extraction, the synchronization, the interest, and the Giphyizing, and then make it ready to share. And some of these things should probably be wrapped in client-side transactions, in case I have like multiple controllers or something like that. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have the controller app handle most of this heavy lifting. And I might even restrict only having one active controller at a time, because the options are either restricted to a single active controller at a time, or I restrict to a single active controller at a time, or wait a second, I just realized my laptop is down to 5% battery. So that's probably why I'm dropping frames like crazy right now, because my battery is so low. Okay, so I'm going to take a break real quick, just because I realized I'm dropping a ton of frames. I'm going to investigate what's up with this. So I'm going to pause the stream, and I will be back in just a moment. So let's get going on this. So I think we have a pretty good idea of what we need to write. This data we had before matches the data that we want to do. Let's change these over to what I want them to be. What I want them to be in the new world. I want the ready state. So I want the idle state to be renamed to ready, to better, more clearly specify that they are ready for action. There is definitely an uploaded state. So the awesome rig, that one's uploaded. So this particular one is in the moment where it is about to slurp down all those videos. I think for now I'm going to have the controller do most of the heavy lifting on this. And if we want to move kind of the coordination of all these signals into a different system, we'll do it somewhere else later. Okay, so let's close Android Studio. We're not going to be doing Android Dev for now, because I think I want to write the controller in, let's just check off these things. So we talked a little bit about Cloud Spin. We sketched out some wireframes for both apps, including sequence diagrams. I'm going to take some pictures of those things, and they're going to end up in the documentation on the GitHub repo, which I'll do after the stream is done. Next up, we want to put some code down on the controller app. And we want to build this. I'm going to build it in, what's the popular JavaScript framework? Let's find out. What are the most popular JavaScript frameworks? JavaScript framework. Because what I would love is I would love something that's opinionated about how things appear, which Polymer might be a good thing for that. But I also want to do something. I want to learn a framework that's going to be useful for other people to see the code on. So something popular. Let's look at Google Trends. Let's see what people are actually searching for. So let's do Vue.js versus Polymer. That might be all the Polymer. Oh, okay, that's way less. Vue.js. I don't know if this is actually a very nice comparison. Oh, you can actually specify the different things. Yeah, because Polymer means a bunch of stuff. React is way more popular than Vue. So I don't think this is actually a very useful tool for comparing these things. Let's try narrowing it down. Oh, I know what to look at. Stack Overflow. Let's use Stack Overflow as a proxy of actual activity. So there's probably a Polymer tag. Let's see how active it is. So there are, for the Polymer framework, there are 664 questions tagged. How about Vue? How about when I actually spell it right? A lot of results. 593 for the actual thing. So a little bit less than Polymer. And then the React is a heavy framework, which I don't actually want to use, just because I think it's way overkill for this particular task. So let's look at React.js, and it's way more popular, and so is Angular. So it looks like between Polymer and Vue, which are the two I was considering, they're roughly similar in terms of popularity. They try and solve different problems. And I'm going to use Polymer primarily because they have a bunch of different examples. And I haven't touched Polymer in a very long time. So you get to learn a little bit of Polymer with me right now. How does that sound? So we're going to be doing kind of the Polymer tutorials. So let's go ahead and try Polymer without installing anything. Is this kind of an in-browser tutorial? Yeah, I did it on Plunker. I'd actually like to get stuff installed. But one of the reasons I want to get moving with this is the app toolbox for writing progressive web apps is really a very good fit for exactly what I want to do. So let's build an app. Let's go ahead and pop open my terminal. Here we are in the Cloud Spin repo. Make a directory for the Polymer, the controller web app, which I think is going to replace the Android app. Mostly because of flexibility in actual stuff. So we want to global. So the first thing we're going to do is install a command line interface globally. Let's see if this execution actually runs successfully. Yeah, basically what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through this tutorial to get a project going, create a page. Because the app toolbox is exactly what I want to use, I think. I'm pretty sure. We'll find out. This is the fun and exciting part where you get to watch me install stuff. Should my monitor a little bit soon. There we go. Okay, so stuff's still downloading. Sometimes I wonder, are coding streams more interesting when I have music playing in the background? Because I figure if you want to listen to music, you can just listen to your own music. I don't have to, like, fuse it into my videos. But that is something that people want. Maybe I'll give it a spin sometime. So if you're actually watching now, you should tell me in the comments. Should I add video as a kind of a background stream? Polymer is being gently something. Gently removed. This is where I hear all the fans spin up. Okay, and it says permission denied, can't do stuff, so. So we are going to, go to, I want to fix npm permission. And then try installing it again. And hopefully not make my computer catch on fire. Gotta conserve those watts, yo. So you get to watch again as I build stuff from source code and install it. This is actually a pretty long installation for a command line interface. It also doesn't go to the next line. I can't see the whole message that's happening right now. I want to see all this stuff. Let's drag that out bigger. Drag it up above the little floating head down there. So all of you can see while I do this stuff. Okay, so now it is building. Well, while that's doing that, let's look ahead and see what, if this is, let's just kind of get a better idea if this is going to be a good fit for our needs. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to, it has a little app server there. This is kind of the structure of a project. Seems pretty straightforward. We're going to create a page. We're going to add an element to my app. And we're going to use some existing template code. We're going to create a navigation menu item. Cool. Yeah, this looks perfect because I don't want to spend time futzing around with an UI. I just want something that looks reasonable, a sensible default. Because I'm not really a front-end developer. Then we're going to add an element. This looks perfect. I'm deploying the app to the web. We can deploy to App Engine. We're going to deploy to probably to, here's the service worker. Well, let's give it a spin and see how it works. Service worker seems kind of heavy for my kind of task, and I'm assuming some of these internal components use it. But let's go find out. Let's give it a spin. Let's go through the tutorial, get it set up. It sounds like it's done doing this step right now, so we can move on to the next step. We're already in the controller web app directory, so let's do an initialization. And we're going to watch it go again. And we want to do the Polymer starter kit. A Polymer 2x application template with navigation and a PRPL pattern. So it's doing stuff. I'm done doing that. I'm done running Bower install. Could have finished installation. Do I not have Bower? I do not have Bower. That's kind of surprising. So now we're going to play the dependency game where we go and we fetch the internet. But fortunately, my NPM permissions are already fixed. So is Bower there? Yay, we have a Bower again. Let's go ahead and do our initialization again. We're going to do the starter kit just like we selected last time. It is Bower installing all the things. Woot! Okay. So next we want to serve up our project. Take a look at it in a web browser. And we got a 404 immediately upon loading, which is a little weird. Oh, that's because I opened a new tab somehow. There we go. Nope, okay. Let's paste in, that's kind of weird. So if you just run Polymer serve open from anywhere, it'll run and it just serves up a nothing. There we go. Woohoo! So we have a pretty simple web application. It gets nice and tiny. We get a little hamburger menu with different things to do. What all do we want our application to do? So we will want our application to, let's go ahead and stop this. So we're going to want our application to be able to create a rig. So rig management. So what do we want in kind of our top of a menu? This is why I'd love to go back here. Let's see if I can do this without catching the world on fire. So we're going to create a new, I'm going to do something new. I'm going to do a new scene. Do a new scene called sketching. And it's going to have nothing in it except a single video capture device, which will be, sorry that you're just in total blackness while I set this up. I didn't think it would just like start doing it immediately, which is kind of funny. Hey, there we go, sketchy. Okay, so now, and I'm not showing my little webcam because I want to save you all. Restore. Okay, for some reason I drop frames only when I'm bringing up the sketchpad. I get a pretty good frame rate. Just bear with me while I troubleshoot my own streaming stuff. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use fewer pixels. See if that fixes everything. It is still suffering. So, what are other options for me to do? I'm going to troubleshoot further. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go back to this while you can do my hiding webcam view while I troubleshoot an issue with my little document projector. Because I love this document projector. It is awesome, but OBS and it do not seem to be getting along all that well today. So I'm going to see if plugging it straight into my system, not through a USB hub, magically fixes the problem, because the hub I'm using is old, and USB 2 may not be enough, or maybe causing too much CPU load to do it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to switch back to the sketching view. We're going to add the sketchy back in, video capture device, sketchy, and it is not even seeing my little webcam at all. Come on, document projector, you can do it. Oh wow, that is like night and day better. Okay, so that apparently was the problem. And I'm not dropping any frames anymore. Things are looking great. I think I might even be able to do this in a combined view. So I'm going to drag this smaller, and I'm going to add my webcam back in, so that you can watch me tinker around while I'm doing sketching. So we're doing more sketching. Oh my gosh, more sketching. What do you know? Okay, so is this focused at all? It's not very focused. So there, that's a lot better. So we're going to be doing more sketching again. This time we are going to kind of sketch up wireframes of what that interface is going to look like. So let me get this over to here. And then let me drag this a little bit bigger so you can see all the different stuff. Okay, so this is actually, we're going to be sketching from up here. Make that a little bit higher so I can capture a little more of the paper. And let's figure this out. So from this, where do we have our state machine? I have all these different things in here, all these different sketches. So from our state machine, we have it back here. What the recorder needs to be able to do is a couple different functions. We need to be able to do rig management, where we can create a rig and join a rig. And then within a rig, we need to be able to do this kind of stuff. So what could that interface look like? From the hamburger menu, I could either show all of the different active rigs and have it so you can dive into each one. I don't know if that's what I actually want. I can have a single one with no hamburger menu that just shows rig creation when I haven't joined a rig, and have the option to leave a rig. That's an option. Because they're kind of different views. Okay, then I can have a hamburger menu that kind of shows me a status, which is really just showing the contents of the monitor. That's pretty cool, because then I can probably reuse a lot of the code with the monitoring application. But I think generally I'm just going to have kind of the general controller view. So my application is, so we'll call this controller mocks. And these look something like this. And we have the menu options up here. We have control and we have status. So let's take a look at the control view, which is the default view. Status will just show like probably global status. I'll show kind of a summary of the number of rigs available. But we'll get back to that in just a moment. So under control, under this side, we have the not joined a rig. So join or create a rig. So we either join one or we create one that already exists. And what this frame looks like is it lists all known rigs. And it lists them, and you can click on the rig to join. And we can also create a new rig. And when you create a new rig, you get a text area to enter a name. And then a create button. Or I could even, another option here is I list all the known rigs, and then I have one of these plus buttons down there below. That's more material design. I think I'll do that. So we'll do that, and when you click on this, it takes you to a rig creation, like a rig creation dialog probably. We'll see if that's one of the components I can choose from. If it's not a component, I'll just transition this whole frame. This is and this will be the same for both of these views. So if I don't have a rig that exists, okay. So I guess this should probably be a separate. This shouldn't just be control. This should be like manage rigs. All right, we'll just call it rigs. And then we'll have, I guess we'll have sessions or like camera or control. We'll call it control. Control session. I don't know what to call it. The actual recording view. Capture. We'll call it capture. So you can go in the hamburger menu. You can go to either you can go to the manage your rigs, or you can go do all kind of the capturing stuff, or to the status menu, which we haven't really described yet. So under the capture area, what we're going to be doing is we have a we probably want to list all the different phone statuses. So all the cameras. It'd be really cool if I could put them in a grid. And then each one of these grid elements shows like green or blue or something to indicate their current state. That would be pretty darn slick, because then I can kind of see the whole rig without running around and looking at all the cameras. So these kind of describe the state of each camera. So underneath the camera status, there below that we have, I guess, the button to do the capture. Oh no, I'm dropping frames again. What is going on with this thing today? Let me take a look at Activity Monitor. What is using up all of my CPU time? It's this stupid sketch view. The sketch view consumes way too much CPU time. Okay, I'm dropping frames. I'm going to go back to my webcam view. So let me switch back over to live with camera, and we'll see if I stop dropping frames. And things seem to be improving already. I may take this opportunity to take another break if it doesn't recover in a moment. So we'll give my little streaming situation time to recover. And then actually I think this is an okay timing, because I think I'm pretty much done figuring out what this thing is going to look like. We display all the cameras. Let me bring this up to the webcam. For some reason the webcam consumes a lot less power. So we're going to display the we're going to display all the status of the thingies up there. It's probably because I'm doing 2 video captures at once. I think that is what's causing everything to go grumpy. Anyway, so we're going to be doing different camera stuff up here. We're going to display the status of them, and then we're going to have a button that will start that rig. So we're going to have a button that start the capture. So big old button, way violating UI standards, which will be available when the rig status is green. Yeah, it seems to make sense. I wonder if I just because before I was thinking about having kind of a state machine that has, let me switch back to talking head. I was thinking of having a state machine where the rig has its own state and then the cameras have their own state. Maybe I can just use the camera state to kind of govern the entire thing. I think we'll see later. Okay, so let's go ahead and build this thing out now that we have kind of a rudimentary Polymer getting started experience done. This is what our app looks like so far. We're going to do the different settings up here in the main menu. But first, let's finish this tutorial that we started a few minutes ago. So we have this. We have a summary of all of the stuff in here. Then I'm going to fire up IntelliJ. I'm going to create a new project. It's going to be a static web project. Is Polymer actually in here? Because that would be slick. If it had any. No, it doesn't have any special stuff for that. That's okay though. So let's go ahead and browse to that path. We're going to go to code. We're going to go to cloud spin. And we're going to go to the controller web app. We're going to open that here, which I just realized is inconsistently named with my other web application. I'm going to move my keyboard back to where I can actually type. And here's the path, and we can see a bunch of stuff in here. So let's drag that up here. Installing dependencies. I can run npm from inside IntelliJ. That's pretty cool. Well, this should already be installed because I already ran it, so I don't really know what IntelliJ is trying to do. But that's okay. It's trying to help. Here's all of my different stuff here. So, we can see images. There's a manifest. There's, oh, icons of Polymer stuff. I didn't even realize that was in the application. We have our index.html, which has a bunch of different stuff here. Polymer root path. By default, we set Polymer root path to serve the path slash. So we're actually using a service worker to do, it looks like, the routing. And that is over in, here's the service worker. Service worker disabled development will be generated at build time. Bunch of kind of extra commas down here. So let's go ahead and make sure that this is doing ECMAScript 6. So this is under where? It's under like editor code style JavaScript, I think. No, not code style. It's under build execution, compiler, JavaScript? No. Can never remember where it is. Languages and frameworks. For some reason, I wanted to do this by default. I don't know how to make it do that. So we'll do there, ECMAScript 6, and then, hey, those warnings should vanish. Yay! Okay, so a lot of our warnings disappeared, which is kind of nice. And we'll fix the license editors, because I'm going to have to license all my work under the project's license. But got it. Okay, so poking around, everything looks fine. So let's create a page. Now that your app is running, let's create a page. It includes a bunch of placeholder pages that you can use to start building out views for your application. So we're going to create a new file called mynewview_source. New file, my new view. And neat. And then we're going to paste in this chunk of code, which goes over to Bower Components and gets Polymer elements. And we have an ID for that. We have some style. Sure, why not? Go back into here, paste it in, make it look a little bit bigger for easier viewing on stream. And then from now on, the element is very basic. It just adds an h1 tag and says new view. So what all do we create here? A new view, there's an h1 element in there. And we just say new view. Cool, okay. And then we do a bunch of boilerplate stuff. Your new element extends a Polymer base class. So am I creating a new element? Okay, I'm creating a new element for the new page. So this thing says I'm creating a new page. Why am I creating an element? First, create a new custom element that encapsulates the contents of your new view. Okay. Create a new view and open the editor. So I'm not creating a page, I'm creating an element first. Fair enough. Then your element is defined, but your app isn't actually using it yet. To use it, you need to add it to your app's HTML. So let's go open up my app. So we're going to go over to my app. There's a bunch of stuff in it. Pull in the world. And then a bunch of style stuff I don't care about. These are all lazy imports. I guess those are like caching them, post caching them, something like that. And then here's all of kind of the application layout and stuff like that. So find the set of existing pages inside iron pages. Iron pages, here's that element. And we have select page name, fallback selection, view 404, role main. So view 101, then there's a 404 page. Okay, the iron pages is bound to the page variable that changes with the route. Okay, selects the active page while hiding the others. Okay, so this is doing the routing essentially. Add my new pages inside iron page. So we'll go, and there's my new view. So it's a little unclear. It seems like they confounded element and page in this tutorial, but that's okay. So I'm going to go ahead, and it's named after my view because I'm assuming this matches this ID up here. So I'm going to do that, copy that, and we're going to drop that into iron pages. Your iron pages should now look like this, roughly. Normally, when adding a new custom element for the page for the first time, you will want to add an HTML import to ensure that the component definition has been loaded. The app is already set up to lazy load top-level views on demand based on the route. So you don't need to do this in an import for my element. Okay, fair enough. The following code, so when does it do that? It says it's already set up to do that. And I see it doing the lazy loads up here. But I don't actually see it doing that. But that's okay. I'll just ignore that for now. We'll see if it actually works. Existing template code, you do not need to add this. The following code came from the app template and will ensure that the definition for each page has been loaded when the route changes. So previous change page. Okay. As you can see, the app follows a simple convention, my-page.html. Importing the definition for each route, you can adapt this code to handle more complex routing and lazy loading. So is this handling the lazy loading too? So let's find this underscore page change. Where does it live? Observer, page change. Can I command B to that? That would be awesome. Oh my gosh, that actually totally worked. That's amazing. So route page change, they can actually detect route changes. Load page on demand. Show 404 if it fails. So this is actually evaluating the route. They all have to start with my. Turn my up. The my thing is a weird convention. Let's try changing all those things in a few and see what happens. Okay. So let's go ahead and run this, see what happens here. And hey, it opened it. And it always defaults to the 404. I wish it would default to, I wish I could set like a default route. That would be pretty cool. Let's go back to view 1. So why does it, oh, that's because it's going to /component/Polymer starting kit, which is a little weird. So why does it go to the wrong path? Is it in this JSON? The entry point is index.html. I don't know why the runner takes it to a different path. So there looks like, it seems like there's a bug in the little runner module. Where might that be? Ooh, there's a video of a polycast. Okay. There's tests. There's all this source code, sure styles. Neat. Let's create a new navigation menu item. Okay, so I'm comfortable with this section. I vaguely understand how it works. Carve enough to get by. I don't know what the deal is with this my prefix. And this app uses that convention, which is a weird convention. I'll just go with the flow for now. So next, we want to create a navigation menu item. You defined a new element and declared it in your app. Now you just need to add a menu item to the left. Oh, that's right, because my app is up here, but I don't have a menu item for that yet. So let's go ahead and do that. So it's going to be under the same file we have open right now. I'm actually going to stick this over here. Do the contents collapse down? Oh, great, they do collapse down. So that means I can keep these both on screen at once while I hack around. So we go back to my app, and I'll drag this little runner out of frame because I don't think you care too much about when I start and stop the application. So let's go ahead and I'm just going to take my app down here. Whoop. And stick it in this lower corner of the screen. Sure, why not? That works. So we can see this little application. Trying to make the most of my little screen real estate. Okay, so I wonder if this will automatically adjust for me adding this route. Let's find out. So we already added our view. So first, find the set of existing pages. I'll add my element to the app. I already did that. I want to add a custom navigation item. So each navigation item consists of an anchor element styled with CSS. So iron selector. So here it is, iron selector. Let's just try and guess what this should look like. Does this automatically pick it up? Oh no, something's up. Oh, that's because I stopped the little serve script. So I'm going to fire the script back up. And hey, there's my new view. Does it actually work? Hey, it totally does. So I can see my little new view, which has very little stuff in it. But I guessed what this should be, and hey, it worked. Okay, so register the page for the build. When you deploy your application to the web, you use the CLI to prepare your files for deployment. We'll need to know about demand loaded fragments, just like the lazy loaded view you just added. Okay, so let's go ahead and open Polymer.js. This might explain, digging into this might explain some of the stuff that's going on. So I want to add my view to this fragments list. So now there's elements, fragments, views. I'm still a little unclear on what is what, but that's okay. I think I can fumble through without it. No, you only need to add files you will lazily load or import during the async attribute. Okay. So now that we've done it, let's get to the interesting part, and let's add an element. So we want to add, this is actually the stuff I'm most excited about, is all of the different web components we can add. So once you've defined identified a component you would like to install, let's go find a component. Let's go find, and my machine is spinning up again to CPU max load. Take a peek at the activity monitor again. What is using up all the CPU time? It is not obvious. We'll just assume that this is going to be okay. So let's go grab a component. What did I want? I wanted like a grid. Or does anyone have anything like that already done? A simple grid layout. I think grid is kind of an overloaded term because I literally want a bunch of pictures, which might be under media. So what, I want to go back to media. Getting started. What are the popular components? Featured elements, featured collections. I'm a little bit overwhelmed with these components. Doesn't seem, okay, so this is like web components in general. What I want is, I just want some different elements to use. A simple web component for analyzing your traffic with Google Analytics. I don't want Polymer. I wish I could see pictures of these. Let's go back to the top. Let's go look at some collections. Family search. And again, none of these actually have any pictures of them. So this is all family search tree stuff. Awesome table elements, awesome pages elements, awesome input elements. They come from Start Polymer. Free and premium Polymer Playgrounds elements. Cool. So let's take a look at Start Polymer. It's the GitHub page. So, regex-based markdown parser. Element wrapper for inner HTML for binding HTML elements. Useful for creating responsive fluid grid layouts. A rating element. So we can kind of see that's kind of cool, but it's not something I really want. So those are awesome input elements. Take a look at this grid thing. That's pretty cool. I don't think I need any of those things though. How about awesome display elements? An infinite list. Wish I could see that iron list. Paper stepper. Yeah, as I bounce around these elements. Calendar elements, media elements. Toolbar elements. What are toolbar elements? So I wonder if I can find them by stars. That would be really cool. So let's go back to webcomponents.org. Let's browse elements. And is there a way for me to sort them by stars? No, not that I know of. Form elements? So this is not very web components. What I want to see is I want to see just the most popular components by stars. That would be pretty cool. This is kind of frustrating. Featured elements, featured collections, resources. I don't know if I'm going to get enough value out of this entire path. I think I might take a turn to the left. Because what I really just care about is the direction I'm going. So how about just using the Material Design Lite template and then hacking what I want into it? So let's consider going a completely different direction to the side. And let's just see if I can just use a Material Design template and work for there. Let's go preview some of these examples. It's a little dashboard, which is kind of cool. Text-heavy web page. This might be enough. I get a plus button. It does all that neat stuff. And for some reason, it thinks it's in French. Oh, because Lorem Ipsum. That's kind of funny. These are all the different components I can use to do stuff. So just using Material Design Lite might be enough. I might be able to just kind of sidestep the entire JavaScript framework and just build this thing in Vue or something like that. Something I'm more familiar with. I can do these. These are pretty cool. Okay, I might just do I might kind of sidestep the whole Polymer thing and just go back and do Material Design Lite. I feel like I should give it a bigger thing, but when I went to web components and couldn't just kind of find what I wanted something with stronger opinions about stuff. And I know I've worked with Material Design Lite before, so I know that it has opinions about how things should look, because I can just go and grab a bunch of components from this bucket. And furthermore, they'll play pretty well with any JavaScript framework I want to use. That's pretty cool. So that's pretty neat. You can build a custom CSS theme builder. So I could build my own Cloud Spin theme builder. That's pretty neat. And there's a showcase of different sites that have used it. Okay, let's just kind of roll this whole project back. Let's ditch all the Polymer stuff. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to clean up all the stuff. I'm going to close IntelliJ. I'm going to not reopen another project by accidentally clicking on it. I'm going to delete that. No, I wanted to delete it. Close. There's a little X up here I have to hit. Boop. Okay. Delete the controller web app. And we're going to go do it in Vue. So how do I get started here? I'm just going to start with the HTML side of it. I'm going to go get one of these templates. Let's grab whichever of these looks closest to what I actually want. I don't think it's this one. I think this one's too heavy. Although it does a lot of the stuff I want. It has a hamburger menu. It's pretty cool. But I don't think we want that. I think surprisingly, I think the text-heavy web page is probably closest to what I actually want. Ooh, this is nice though. It has the login UI and all that stuff. Dashboard's not far off either. How about the text heavy? We have the portfolio. Let's go take a look at that. And then we have the text heavy web page. I think the dashboard's probably the closest. So we'll go ahead and drag this back out to full size. We'll X these. We're going to go get the dashboard. We're going to go download that. We're going to boop. It was called MDL. We're going to copy that to our current location. We're going to unzip it. Hey, that's pretty tiny. Take a look at the license. It came from Google's. It's probably exactly the same license I will want. It's pretty compatible with mine. All right, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to open that up in IntelliJ. We're going to continue working on it. So we're going to go create a new project. Static web. And we're going to point it at controller web app. We're going to open it up and we're going to poke around. And then we're going to kind of inline the JavaScript framework to do our actual work. So drag this back so you can see everything I'm doing. We have that. Material Design Lite. We're going to open it with a web browser. Open in browser. Why not Chrome? Hey, there we have. We have our little copy of this thing. I'm going to rip out a bunch of stuff I do not want. Just go to like a GitHub page. Oh, it totally goes to a GitHub page. That's pretty cool. When was this last updated? Over a year ago. So it's an older project. So we're gonna go ahead and rip out the stuff I don't want. Like I'm not gonna, there's no search to do. There's none of those buttons. I just want the menu. I probably want the login part. Because you're going to be able to log in as a user to do the management, because there'll be a list of whitelisted users for doing it. Then let's take a look at what's in here now. So we have our license. We have add a home screen for Chrome on Android. Add home screen for Safari and iOS. So they have to go via a different set of stuff. And then we have all of these different things here. We have our layout header row. We have our, let's just look for stuff. View source. So we can get rid of this whole view source thing here. Here's actually loading the material min in there. This is all done with an SVG. What is all this SVG? How many of these are inline SVGs? So this is the chart, I think. Oh, it's these charts are SVGs. So are they just SVGs sitting in the material design layout? Like if I delete them with the whole box, oh, so they get inlined into a box. That's weird. So how do they know where to go? Oh, they are built off screen, and then I guess they're being pulled in by JavaScript or something. I don't see much JavaScript. Is there JavaScript here that's pulling them in or repositioning them? So let's reload that again. How are these SVGs getting pulled in? So demo charts and demo graphs. Oh, and then the SVG is inside of it. But these SVGs must refer to the other ones somehow. Oh, URL pound PyMask. And then this SVG down at the bottom is the PyMask SVG. All the SVGs. I don't really want either of these, so I'm going to get rid of both of them. And then I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of like inline SVG work on this. Div demo graphs. But I do want at least one full width element in there. And then here's this one, which has all of these SVGs in it. Boop. And this is the demo charts. So let's pluck all that stuff out. And these are all, what these were is these were just a bunch of SVG fill, current color, width, and you can actually just specify, oh, the view box. I wonder how the VBox stuff works. Let's make one of these bigger. Hey, it makes it tiny. So there's that. Oh, it's because I replaced it with text. These are still SVGs? That's weird. Why is this one tiny? If I go back to 1 by 1, boop, it gets big again. What about 3? Does that make it even smaller? I do not know what this view box thing does. It makes it even smaller. So I guess that means I'm fitting that number of things into that box of 200 by 200. So if I make this bigger, what will happen? It got bigger. If I drag the screen bigger, if I make it smaller, does it get a different position? Not really. I don't really understand how the positioning stuff is working, but probably sufficient. So what would I like to do with some of these different things? So there's all this navigation stuff up here. I want to rip out a lot of that navigation. Whoop. Because all I want is other icons. Neat. So they're getting icons from there. And then I have my login screen, which I want to strip down. Add another count. We'll just do sign out. Now I can sign out. I guess I can respond to those events. I'll wire it up with view later. And then, so that's all the different account buttons. There's the user's avatar. That's pretty cool. Okay. So then this is the whole main area where all that stuff happens. Top menu. Do I want any of that top menu stuff? No, I'm going to get rid of that whole menu. So we'll go ahead and we'll just nuke that whole menu. Boop. Do I even want that menu button? No, I don't think so. Do I want a search? Because this is an expandable holder. Whoop, that's pretty cool. Do I want any of that? Nah, I don't want any of that. So now that's just a button that does the ripple effect. Let's get rid of that. There's a text field that's expandable that's gone. We have a spacer. We have home. So I don't know how I'm going to be able to weave this into the router. I'll figure out a way. So we have our home. That's our total thing. So what was this going to be called? We were going to call this rig management. All right, this was called, we'll do the rig management first. Manage rigs. Or just call it rigs. So this is the rig screen. And then over on the far over menu, we have, in this big, we have, what are the different things we have? We have rigs. We have, boop, rigs. Oh, that was the icon. Lowercase home. So this refers to the icon, I guess. Yeah, material design icons with the italics element overloaded, which is a very popular style to do. What are the different things we want to have in there? So let's get rid of all the other stuff here. Is there a different navigation link? There's a help. Oops. That make help go? Cool. So you can pin something at the bottom. That's pretty neat. You can pin an icon all the way down at the bottom. How does it actually know to pin it at the bottom? So it is a navigation link. Oh, we have a layout spacer, which I guess does it. So I could probably put anything down here and it would boop jump all the way to the bottom. That's pretty cool. So spacers eat up all of the available space. That's pretty slick. I'll leave a help icon down there, and we'll link off to something else. Class is MDL navigation link. And hopefully it'll be pretty reasonable to wire in like a view router when it's time. So we'll leave that down there. So we have rigs. We have, what are other things we have? We have system status. Because it might just be, I'll leave system status is another one we have. Boop, that's pretty cool. And then we have, instead of inbox, we're going to have capture. So you have the rigs view, the capture view, and the system status view. Then I'm just going to dump all of the different views into here for now. And then I wonder when I should probably break out the... So where does account show up? I wonder when I should break out the... Account shows up one time on the page, but I can't see it anywhere. That's bizarre. It must be like in this element or something. Whatever. I'll deal with that later. I don't know where this goes. Let's see. Apparently it doesn't show up at all. What happens if I delete it? Nothing! I guess it was a header for this element. Hopefully that doesn't break it on some other view. Can I remove me? What else is there here? Okay, so what else do we want to do? We want to get, so we have one box for the active rig. So if we go back to this design, and then we have a plus, a little floating plus sign here. So let's go ahead and do that view. I'm just going to rename this to rigs, and I'm going to do all of the different kind of HTML side right now. And I'm going to make a bunch of different copies of this. Actually, I'm going to go grab the Did I delete the zip file? I'm going to unzip index dot. I'm going to keep that as kind of, I'm going to keep a copy of the original index to steal stuff from later. So now I have the original index. I can delete this now. Oh, that's going to make my terminal grumpy because it's now linked to a location that doesn't exist anymore. Oh no, I CD'd out. So it's happy. Okay, so now we have our index.html, which has all the stuff on it. I copied the license. No, wait. There's index.html. There we go. That's actually useful. So here's index, which is before I went and wrecked it. Here's the rigs page. That does that stuff, and I want to, this is all grumpy now because it sees JavaScript that's indented. There we go. Now is it happy? Okay. Yeah, it was complaining that that looked like the files were weird, so when I did fix stuff. Okay, so I'm going to make a rigs file. I'm just going to focus on building out this rigs view now, and then I'm going to build out the other views. So this is index.html. Let's do... There we go. There's our rigs view that kind of smashed it down one. Then we'll focus on building it out in a JavaScript framework. Or like my gut is actually to build it out with like Hexo or something like that, which is awful, but whatever. So system status. So let's go get rid of the other stuff. So we have spam and down to everything but the spacer goes away. Let's go find some icons that actually make sense. Let's go look at icons. Text fields, toggles, snack bars. I want to see all the icons. Styles? We have the templates. We have the components. Where are these icons actually coming from? These are MDL material icons. Let's go see if we can find a list of those icons. Material.io/icons. Icon font. Let's go find it. Because you know icons are fun. I want to find the icon library. Which took me back here. Oh, here it is. So we want one that specifies for rigs. So we want something that kind of captures that insanity. The donut. The donut might actually be appropriate. Or the Euro symbol, because it's a big old curved thing and I want to see all the different rigs out there. But something that kind of expresses the multitudity, like how many of these things there are. Then we have capture, which is probably going to look like a camera. Camera enhance. Pattern, camera mic. Nothing that really specifies just a camera. This is the fun part of front-end development. When you're doing icon selection. Okay, so well, let's go grab. That one is is there one for video? Device. Editor. File. Hardware. This is probably going to be somewhere in hardware. Is there anything that looks like a video camera that's capturing? Not really. Images. Add a photo. Add a photo might be the right one to use. Or camera alt. Let's do add a photo. Are you just called add a photo? Let's find out. Material icons, presentation. So can I actually go, will this take me to the definition? Material icons. That's the CSS definition. Do the icons actually live somewhere in here? Like I would hope so. Or am I pulling them up from the web? I'm pulling them from the web. That's okay. So I will just, I can't rely on autocomplete to show me. I got something. So what is the actual style of this? Maybe I can find it by looking at the source of the icon editor. Add underscore a underscore photo. So let's go back to rigs, go back to our menu. Add underscore a underscore photo. There might be a better way to find those icons, but I don't know it. Let's go back to our little web thing and see. Oh, I'm down to 4% again. So I'm probably going to take another break to let my battery recharge. Hey, there's an icon. So I'm going to do that. So I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be back in about 15 minutes. I'm going to let my battery top off again so I stop dropping frames. So if you're watching, hang out. I'll be back in a few minutes. Thanks so much. Hey again, everyone. So I gave my computer a chance to rest, and I am back again. I was thinking about just kind of pushing through and getting this whole thing implemented end to end, but I think I'm actually going to wrap up for today because I've been plagued by some technical challenges that I'd like to tackle before I attempt a much longer stream duration. So if anyone is still watching, thanks a lot for bearing with me as the video quality bounced back and forth between happy and sad. Oh, the lighting is getting a little weird today. The sun is coming out, so the lighting is getting a little odd. So thanks a lot for bearing with me on that. I'm going to kind of wrap it up for today, and then call it a day and come back another time next week on Tuesday, I believe. So let's see where we are now. So we have this material design light, just stuff I dumped in here. And it looks like we have a decent start for kind of our controller interface. So, I just heard a weird noise coming from somewhere. So, let me close that application. I got a notification from another app. Let me force quit it, make sure it goes away. So we put some code down on the controller app. Specifically, we tinkered around with Polymer 2.0 a bit and web components. But I think they're a little bit too heavy for what I want to do. So we're going to punt on it. And then I kind of went back full circle, and I decided to go do it with Material Design Lite. And then what we're going to do is Material Design Lite, and then I'm going to go and I'm going to kind of weave in Vue.js for basically, Vue is basically going to be doing the routing and a little bit of the wiring up to Firebase, because Firebase has pretty good Vue bindings. So we're going to be taking that approach to building out the rest of the application. So we started over with Material Design Lite in Vue, and then we spent some time kind of modifying the dashboard example. Material Design Lite dashboard example to fit our controller UI. And we made pretty limited progress here. Not as much as I wanted to. I was actually thinking of kind of pushing through and just getting this application working, because once you get on a roll, you can actually start to make some progress. Once you spend, you spend a certain amount of time kind of futzing around with tools and figuring out if they're going to fit your use case and figuring out how to massage them into your use case. And then once you kind of get over that hump, productivity picks up a lot. And I'm a little bit frustrated that I didn't make it into that phase of development today, because this is honestly a pretty boring stream as a result. I will be trimming this one down a lot before I post it to YouTube as an archive. And then we did not make any progress at all on the camera app, because that's all going to be actual Android application. We didn't even sketch that one out. So thanks for bearing with me today through the technical challenges and the fact that this was kind of focusing on a different part of the engineering lifecycle than all code stuff. We spent a lot of time sketching things out. I actually spent a good part of time, especially early on in an application development in the UI phases, wireframing stuff on a whiteboard, or in my case, as I did below, on these sheets of paper, like doing these kind of little UI wireframes. So thanks for sticking with me through all of that stuff. I'm going to be generally spending larger chunks of time on streaming going forward and hoping to kind of get more consistency around that kind of every Tuesday streaming time. That's because I find that it takes me about an hour to get into flow anyway. And about an hour for anybody to actually chat with me in the chat, which is half of the fun of this kind of stuff. And I realized nobody chatted this time because I kept killing the stream to let my battery recharge this week. So thanks a lot for bearing with me. This is the project. I'm going to go check the code in after the stream if you want to take a peek at it. But other than that, have a wonderful rest of your week. See you later, everybody. Bye.